if you don't know what it's like to struggle, like it creates a sense of entitlement and you almost think like you're deserving of those things without really earning them. And so I'm
Mhm.
really grateful for the hardships I faced because it's given me a newfound sense of compassion and empathy. But that was the moment where like the pain of staying the same was greater than the fear of change. You cannot love anything that we don't accept within ourselves. And for so long, I was denying it. It got worse before it got better. But acceptance really is kind of that painful first step. There's so much cognitive dissonance because I knew in my heart and I knew in my gut that that wasn't true. So I would say to listen to those feelings, number one, because they're not going to go away. If anything, they're going to get louder. And what in my day to day energizes me, what in my day to day drains me. I would get really clear on the energy drainers and the energy givers in terms of just like not just in my role, but in my day to day life.
What happens when the things you thought would make you happy, a successful career, money, social approval, and external validation, no longer make you feel well? In this conversation, you will learn about self compassion, acceptance, and redefining what wellness truly means. You will also get some tips on how to navigate career transitions and the concept of energy audit. My guest, Matt Kovatchis, is a Chicago based keynote speaker, certified coach, and author of the guided journal Enjoying Your Own Company. Matt is on a mission to help people stop beating themselves up and start showing up with more presence, resilience, self compassion, and joy. After years of seeking validation outside of himself, Matt reached a turning point that led him to make some difficult but life changing decisions. A journey that ultimately helped him move from fear and self judgment towards self acceptance, compassion, love, and purpose. If you've ever felt exhausted from constantly pushing, proving, achieving, or trying to fit, this conversation is for you. So let's dive in, shall we? Welcome to Good is What Makes You Feel Well, Mama Terra's podcast. Each week, we will explore topics that impact your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health through inspiring transformation stories. Here, you will find practical guidance and actionable strategies to apply in your daily life. I'm your host, Ana Rezende, author, health coach, and speaker. I'm here to help you protect your energy, strengthen your well-being, and thrive through life's transitions. Speaking of life transitions, I would love for you to go to Amazon and check my book, Living Your Best Life in College, which I wrote as a guide for young adults transitioning from high school to college. If you are a student, a parent, a teacher, or someone who cares about well-being, this book might be a game changer. Now, let's dive in and discover all the different ways you can feel well. Vista transcende, levita. Hey, good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Welcome to Good is What Makes You Feel Well.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I really appreciate the time and very excited.
Yeah, me too. So, for us to start our conversation, I would like to ask you right now, in this season of your life, what makes you feel well?
What makes me feel well in this season of my life? In this season of my life, I would say, I mean, outside of the traditional, which, are just so accustomed and ingrained into me of moving my body, of, meditating and just grounding myself, investing in my relationships, I would say what makes me feel well, particularly in this season, is connecting with my faith. That
Mm,
has been something, over the last year or so that I've really for whatever reason felt called to and pulled towards, and I find it just incredibly grounding and helpful, especially as a newer entrepreneur navigating the ups and downs of business, and it can be challenging. And so I've found a lot of comfort and peace in connecting, with, for me, it's God, for whoever it might be, what to each their own, but just connecting with that, higher power and trusting that everything's going to be okay.
I love that. I love that. So my faith is always my anchor and my safety net. That's how I like to call it. Yeah, I have this big faith in God and that the universe just wants us to succeed. And if we're in the right path, following our hearts with good intent and good missions, everything is just going to move forward, right?
I agree. I feel like, we were given all the tools here. It's like if you think about a bird or a dolphin, whatever it might be, like they just flow with life. Everything they need is given to them. And I feel like the same is true for human beings. We overcomplicate things and kind of get in our own way oftentimes, but the answer is really love and following that. Obviously, easier said than done. But yes, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And like hearing you say that we, like every other single animal in nature, we are provided everything that we need is so true. So it's funny because yesterday I watched Greenfield. I don't know if you had the chance to watch it. It's a short documentary by Rob Herring, and he does like an excellent job on producing those short films or videos. I don't know how the technical name is, but those documentaries are really interesting. And so this one particular guy, Rob Greenfield is his name. He has been living the past decade without any possessions. So the only thing he has is what he can fit in a backpack. So he has like three shirts, two shorts, and, a few little things, utensils, and a tent, blanket, hat, and what he can fit on a backpack. And he has been living in nature, in gardening, in communities' front yards, and just showing people and living by example how simple life is and how much we complicate life. Like you said, what made me remind of this film, because we tend to complicate things so much and it's actually so easy.
I think I would say it's simple. I don't know that it's easy because I feel like life is inherently challenging and difficult, but I would say that it's incredibly simple. But oftentimes that path, that intuitive knowing that we all have, I think deep down of kind of where we're supposed to be or where we're pulled towards is difficult to follow. It usually requires different patterns, making different decisions, unknown uncertainty, but that's where I really like to lean on my faith, in seasons like that or in moments like that. So it doesn't mean I'm perfect. I fall short sometimes, but I think we have this idea for whatever reason today, people more broadly, that like life's supposed to be easy, and I just don't think it is. Like I don't, I look at my most challenging moments have given me the biggest growth, have turned into blessings in disguise. And, without them, you don't really get the opportunity to learn about who you are, what you're capable of. And so, I feel like I was incredibly gifted and privileged in so many areas of my life that I didn't choose. It's luck of the draw. None of us chose to be here, but I just dropped here and I feel like given so much opportunity, and which is a blessing, but also like if you don't know what it's like to struggle, like it creates a sense of entitlement and you almost think like you're deserving of those things without really earning them. And so I'm
Mhm.
really grateful for the hardships I faced because it's given me a newfound sense of compassion and empathy for people. And so yeah, I always like to say life is inherently hard, but it's incredibly simple and we make it harder than it needs to be by overcomplicating it.
Yeah, I think I used the wrong word. Yeah. By easy, I meant simple.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. It's challenging and it challenges us every single day. And I love what you said because that is how we learn and how we grow is through challenges. Love it. So tell me how this concept of feeling well has evolved throughout your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think like for example, might have a different opinion or idea of what feeling well means
Hmm.
than to somebody else. But what I'll say, for me, feeling well used to be very externally focused. So
Mm,
how do I appear to other people? If I'm being validated, if I'm being
mm,
appreciated, then like I feel great. Look at me. If I wasn't, then I wasn't feeling great. And, what am I doing wrong? Why does no one care? So feeling well was very externally focused and driven for most of my life, really. And I realized that, because externally I had it all. I had a dream life in terms of, I think what a lot of people, what society would define as a dream life of a very high paying job, lived in a high rise in Chicago, in a relationship, driving a Tesla. I mean, I had, what people defined as success and internally I felt, miserable, chronically stressed and confused. And I was like, it kind of forced me to go inward because I'm like, I've done all these things and I don't feel well. In fact, I feel the opposite. And so went through kind of a painfully beautiful process of, self-acceptance and discovery, and still am, of course, but it was really the first time that I embarked on this journey of awareness and acceptance. And I would say, today feeling well to me is, waking up healthy with a smile on my face and gratitude and, work, not even just work, but just moving throughout my day and from a place of love and energy, doing things that energize me. Like that's what, feeling well is for me today. And maybe that'll evolve, but I'm very, service driven now. And so that's what makes me selfishly feel well.
yeah. So yeah, that is a journey that I hear a lot. And for each one of us is different, of course, because what makes me feel well might be totally different from what makes you feel well. And that is what is nice about this podcast is just having different perspectives, what makes each one of us feel well, and then share that with people because whoever is listening might resonate with what makes you feel well, but not with another guest. And that is what I find interesting about this question because it is super personal. And I love what you said. And most of my guests have the same testimony that before it was more external, it was more physical, and then now it's more internal. It's from inside out. And I love that journey that you went through. So tell me, what was the turning point for you?
Yeah, June of 2022. I mean, graduated in 17, spent, 7 years in corporate banking, was in a relationship that I probably really shouldn't have ever been in. And I think the turning point for me was I finally got the courage to, leave that relationship. And it was incredibly pain. I mean, it taught me a lot of lessons, really, of like just, heartbreak. And it just was the most painful thing ever to see someone else in so much pain and know that, in some ways I was the cause of that pain. And that said, for the first time in 4 years, I felt free in a sense. Like I,
Mm,
I think I felt very trapped and fear driven in that relationship. And so anyways, I felt very free. This was 2021 and I did what I thought was gonna, provide, I think, a lot of what I wanted to feel and started, I partied a lot and out all the time and, had my fun being single and got a lot of external validation, from people. Oh, this is people call me Covey or my college friends did. It's like, oh, this is Summer Covey, he's the MVP, he's doing all the things. So I'm getting so much validation, I'm taking it all. And I started seeing someone else in the fall of 2021, and into the winter, people stopped going out as much. So, I'm not getting as much validation from that. And then the girl I was seeing, I stopped seeing her. Like that kind of fell through. And I recognized in that moment that I was just as empty as I had ever felt.
mm,
And that was kind of the point. in my life where I was kind of forced to do so. I felt forced, like, but back up against the wall. Like, either I can continue down this path, but I know what's coming and it's not good. I felt like I had exhausted all options. Or I can do the thing that I'm scared out of my mind to do and go inward and, accept myself. And so, for me personally, I was so scared of, coming out. And so in June, I texted my sisters. They were very supportive, but I had hit it so well, they actually thought I was joking. I mean, and these are like my best friends. Like they know everything about me, but I just had so much shame around who I was that I couldn't even, and I knew they would be incredibly supportive, but I just couldn't fathom, telling them because it really forced me to then accept it myself. So anyways, I would say that was really the turning point was coming out for the first time to anybody, but then like getting help through therapy. And the only reason I did it was because I knew that a therapist legally can't, say anything. So I was like, okay, my secret is safe with her. And I had so much shame that I actually took the first therapy appointment over Zoom. I took it not at my apartment with where I lived with my roommate, my friend. I went over and took it at my sister's apartment because I was so worried that he overhear something. So that gives you kind of a sense of where I was at in just my
Mm,
journey of acceptance and levels of awareness. But that was really the turning point in my life. Now, things didn't just drastically get better. They actually probably got worse before they got better. But that was the moment where like the pain of staying the same was greater than the fear of change.
hmm. I hear you. You got everything that was supposed to make you happy, and you felt empty and the worst that you have ever felt. Yeah.
I was just, also chronically stressed out, and didn't even realize. I mean, I was so dysregulated and taking, Adderall to stay awake and, then trying to take two different doses of ZQL at night to be able to get any sleep and like was so tired all the time. Like I was very dysregulated on top of everything that was, kind of going on.
If you are enjoying this episode and want to go deeper, schedule a free discovery call with me to see if my personalized one-on-one coaching is a good fit for you. The scheduling link is in the show notes. Now, back to the episode. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was your turning point, but what was the idea that came to you that like a therapist would help or that you had to turn inward? Was that a book, a person, and who gave you the hint that you needed to change the course of your life?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really myself. Like I think we all
Mm,
know. Like we know when things are flowing and going well, quote unquote. We also know when things feel very difficult and suffering and stressed out and overwhelmed and dysregulated. Like we may not know entirely why, but I think we have a pretty good idea of where, we're not free. And so I knew for a long time, but I just didn't have the courage really to, speak my truth.
mm,
Um, when I came out to my sisters for the first time, one of them told me, like, hey, I've been going to therapy, for years, and I think, it may serve you, it may not, but like it's something worth looking into. And of course, I had quite a different belief back then around what therapy was, and I thought it was something to, that you only do if you're messed up, whatever. But I'm like, at this point, I was just, kind of at my rock bottom, and I'm like, sure, I'll give it a try. Okay, she can't say anything to anybody. Like, okay, I'll give it a try. So that's what kind of was that first step. I would say the light was, I mean, just the support that I received from people. I can't even tell you what it feels like. I was a little bit nervous. My coming out story, which I think similar to anybody that you talk to that's come out, it looks very different. Some
mhm,
people come
mhm,
out to everybody at once. Some people come out to one person and then don't for another year. Some people are out to certain people but not others. Like it's very different. But for me, like I just trusted, my gut and came out to really people I trusted. And so slowly but surely. And the first guy I came out to was challenging for me, but I'll never forget what he said to me. It was like, dude, I'm so proud of you. I respect you more. I love you unconditionally. And I'm proud of you. Like to hear those words from about a part of myself that I had so much shame towards and it is just like it gave me so much confidence to be myself. And so that was
Mm-hmm.
really the light is seeing that this part of me that I thought people, my biggest concern was that, oh my God, people are going to view me different. Like he's going to think that I'm attracted to him. It's like, no, no, no. Like I'm just like my whole thing was I don't want people to view me differently. Like this is just part of who I am. And so to hear stuff like that, it was so freeing, so empowering, if you will. And that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like gave me the driving. And then I started to feel better, It's like I felt lighter and I'm like, oh my, okay, this is great. I'm just gonna now follow my heart. I feel like I've done something that I thought I would never do in my life. And it just unlocked a lot of energy and empowerment.
Yeah, acceptance is so important. And
It's the first step
yeah,
because
it is the first
I
step.
didn't love that part of me at this time, but I at least accepted it. You cannot love anything that we don't accept within ourselves. And for so long, I was denying it. But at least, like I said, the first 4 or 5 months of therapy were brutal because
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was going to go in and cry and process all these things and figure out where it was coming from and trying to just get to the it was incredibly challenging. Like I said, it got worse before it got better, but acceptance really is kind of that painful first step.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I usually say first awareness because you gotta just look at the thing and be aware that it's there and then accept it and love it and embrace it. Like John Kabat-Zinn likes to say, put the welcoming mat to it and leave the full catastrophe because that is what it is, right? So it gets worse and then it gets better because
I love
we
what you said.
grow.
Yeah, it is awareness first, and I had awareness. I just didn't want to accept it, but I knew deep down, I knew my truth. And it's not even so much after you're working through your process of self-acceptance. It's very hard to like love that part, but I think it can then sometimes we get like, at least for me in my personal experience, it's almost like I feel guilty and shameful because like there's this part of myself that I know that I've at least accepted, but I still feel judgment towards. And it's like giving yourself the grace that you're still working through, rewiring your beliefs but can you at least show yourself that part of yourself compassion?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm okay, fine. You don't have to love that part. Like, we're working, like, fine. But can you at least show it compassion? Like, understand where it's coming from. And that was really helpful for me, which is now why I talk about so much about self-compassion was because it just made such a difference in my life and still does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everything you said is so important. It's hard to love it in the beginning. It's like our relationships with anybody else, right? If something is different, it's not as what you expected it to be. The first reaction is, wow. But with compassion for that person, in that case, for ourselves, then we can understand and love ultimately. But it's that acceptance and compassion first that will lead to that moment of love. So, your business is the self compassion advantage.
Yeah, it's kind of like my tagline. But I'm predominantly a speaker, but I'm a certified coach as well. So we'll do it here and there.
Okay, so self compassion advantage. I love that tagline because it is an advantage for sure. So, for those who are aware that we need compassion. Yeah. So tell me now, you're mostly a speaker, a keynote speaker, and I have been following you and I see that you do speak all over the country in all different kind of universities. So tell me about that. How did you decide your niche to be like college kids and how yeah, how this
Yeah.
whole thing started for you, the speaking gigs and whatnot.
Sure, yeah. I never dreamed of becoming a speaker, let alone a mental health. Didn't like public speaking class. It was my least favorite class in college. So, but again, when you follow your heart, it's going to be a nonlinear journey. It might not make sense, but I just try to stay true to, again, I fall short. I'm not perfect, but it's something I'm very intentional about anyways. When as I started to accept myself and love myself, I fell in love with personal growth, personal development, leadership. I felt like there was so much to learn and just felt very empowered. And so, started my podcast in 2023 on mental health and came out publicly on the show in the second episode, and it received so much support, and I'll never forget that day. But anyways, left never meant to be was never meant to be in this corporate banking job. So now that I found something I'm passionate about, like I'm gonna go that way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving my corporate job was the second hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Again, outside of coming out, I mean, incredibly difficult and was a big leap of faith. But I actually left with the intent of becoming a full-time coach. So went to coaching school while I was still working. It's like a year and a half long program and really, really enjoyed it. Like I loved helping other people, really learning to hold space for them. So left with the intent of becoming a full-time coach, hired a business coach to help me do that. Realized it was very difficult in those first few months on my own to just find clients, quite frankly. Just hard to get people to pay for a premium service out of pocket. I had no sales experience. So I think there were just a lot of things kind of working against me, if you will. And so, anyways, had a few paying clients, but had an opportunity to speak kind of fall into my lap at my fraternity that at the University of Illinois and get paid to do it. And I fell in love with public speaking in that moment.
Mm.
I realized I liked coaching. I loved public speaking. Like coaching is a lot of holding space, offering different perspectives, very fulfilling. But there was nothing like for me being able to spread a message that I felt called to share with
Mm.
people and in the hopes to kind of touch and empower and inspire them. And so once I did that, I was like, there was a mentor of mine who I was like, Rashad, no corporations have responded to me. Like I'm sending out all these emails and like he was like, well, Matt, you need to figure out a way. And I told him, I think it was because, I'm younger and I'm trying to, coach executives and work with their organizations. And he's like, well, you need to figure out a way to make your age an advantage rather than a disadvantage. And
Mm.
so that was kind of a light bulb moment for me where, oftentimes college students want someone that's a little bit closer, to their age. In my case, I speak to a lot of fraternity and sorority life on campuses, and I was also affiliated, of course, with a fraternity. And so they like someone that's quote unquote sat in their shoes, can speak the language of being a part of Greek life and a Greek community. And so I really just ran with the one opportunity that I had which is why I'm forever grateful for the fraternity and for, the board of trustees that brought me in because it really changed my life. And so I'm very persistent, Anna. I think it's a great quality when harnessed the right way, especially in business and in entrepreneurship. And started reaching out to different schools and had a couple schools kind of, I guess, buy into, me and my message and my energy. And the rest is kind of history. And, I really love what I do. And I also really love working with adults, different associations and corporations. And my message seems to be very resonant, especially with adults. And I think it's because, at that point you have 45, 50, 55-year olds that have been incredibly hard on themselves their entire lives and don't even realize it, aren't even consciously aware of it. It's just like, oh, isn't that how everyone is? I'm just a self-critical person. Like we think that's just how we are. They don't recognize that there's another way, let alone that it's like hindering their growth and stressful on their body and minds. And so it's been really resonant with that community as well.
Yeah.
But honestly, to sum it all up, like being detached from where I think I'm supposed to be and following my heart and trusting that where I'm going is where I'm supposed to be. Like I still remember coaching through one of my coaches, and she told me this was when I was just leaving the corporate world and just starting my coaching. And she told me, she had me kind of do a little bit of visualization. And so I'm connected with myself. And she said, like, what do you see? Like, I was kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And she's like, well, where do you see yourself? And like, I don't know. I just see myself like spreading the energy of love and compassion.
Mm.
Like that's and I was like, I almost see myself on a stage. And
Mm.
like, sure enough, here we are, a year and a half later, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not saying that's how it always plays out, but I've really just tried to detach from how I think I'm supposed to be showing up, how I think I'm supposed to be serving, and like just trust that everything is kind of aligned for me.
I love that. And isn't that incredible how the path unfolds? before us when we trust. Like said, you are all ready to be a coach and you try to, and then this speaking opportunity just falls into your lap and you embrace it. And then now it's everything you do and you love to do. And I love how you frame it. I'm just visualizing myself spreading love and compassion on a stage. That is so beautiful. I
Thank
love
you. I
it.
appreciate it. I
I love
appreciate it.
it. I love it. And that's all we need. So I love that song, Love is the Answer, because I think that is all we need. We just need to spread love. And that is all we need. I love it. I love it. So you mentioned that you left your corporate career. And I think, well, I came from corporate too. And I think we have lots of fellow corporate workers that have the same call of living, but they cannot figure how to. So you mentioned then you started your coaching training when you were still working, and then you hired somebody after that to help you. So leaving a high paying job is scary, is challenging. So if somebody else might be listening to us is feeling the same, what would you say to them?
I would say, well, one, I would validate whatever they're feeling because whether we want to have it's like I was trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. I would try to tell
Mm,
myself like, no, Matt, you are a corporate banker. This is what you love. And it's like, there's so much cognitive dissonance because I knew in my heart and I knew in my gut that that wasn't true. So I would say to listen to those feelings, number one, because they're not going to go away. If anything, they're going to get louder and be more disruptive. I would say, I think there's a lot to unpack in terms of like where they're at. It's one thing to know that you don't like where you are. It's another thing to know where it is you want to be. If you just don't know what you want to do, but you know what you don't want to do, well, if it were me, I wouldn't make any rash decisions. I would, stay in my role, but I would try to figure out like what in my day-to-day energizes me, what in my day-to-day drains me. I would get really clear on the energy drainers and the energy givers in terms of just like not just in my role, but in my day-to-day life. Like, does talking to people energize you? Does it drain you? What types of conversations, what type of tasks in your role give you energy, drain you of energy? Are you analytical? Are you not? I think doing like an energy audit almost can be incredibly helpful just to figure out like who you are. I mean, we have this beautiful thing now. In some ways, I say beautiful, but in AI and Claude and ChatGPT, like I'll send like a 4 minute voice prompt to Claude, like, for example, and like tell it exactly what I'm feeling. And so I would throw an energy audit into Claude and say, hey, this is exactly where I'm at. Any suggestions? Just looking for your, like, so that. And then also like try new things. I feel like a lot of us, it's like, no, I would never like that. I would never like improv, but you never done it before. So how do you know that? Like we write off so many things that may be something that gives us a lot of joy and we'll just never know it. Or foods, I feel like there's so many people I would never like sushi. It's like you never tried,
mhm.
and then they try, and it's like, oh my gosh, I've been robbing myself of so much. Like this food is like delicious and nutritious, and I haven't tried it for 50 years because I just thought I wasn't gonna like it. So take an energy audit and start trying new things. Think about when you were a child, things you like to do. If it was building a sandcastle, well, maybe it's just building. Like, are you creative? Do you like to draw? Like action. My default is towards action, not in the way of like leaving the job right away. Now, in the case of like, okay, I know what I don't like to do, but I also know what I want to do. I'm just scared. Well, to me, that's just a question of it's hard for me to give an answer because, circumstances are so different. Like some people have kids, some don't. I was very fortunate that I was 28 at the time, single. I have a dog, but outside of that, like I don't have children. I'm debt free. I'm very blessed, financially. I saved up a lot of money through, my time in corporate banking. Like I looked at my worst case scenario, and maybe this is also a helpful exercise, like really map out like what's the worst case scenario. For me, the worst case scenario was I do it for a year and I get absolutely nowhere. And I have to go back and move in with my parents and I have to take another job in corporate. And it's like, I'm kind of already living my worst case scenario today. Like I'm in a corporate job right now. So if you're able to like reflect, because I understand like when you're in it, it feels so anxiety inducing. But if you can actually just take a big step back and actually like be a little bit more practical, it's like, okay, my worst case scenario is maybe I move back with my parents for a little while. I'm doing that right now. And it's not so bad. You know, I like living with my parents. I cherish my time with them. So to sum it all up, energy audit for sure. And then if you know, try new things, hobbies, things of that nature. Pay attention to how you feel and map out your worst case scenario. And if you can live with that, like I said, there's some people that have bills to pay and like mouths to feed. And like if your worst case scenario is quite literally like you going on the streets and like not having a home, and then maybe that's something you need to rethink. But for me, I knew that I was going to be okay. Now my ego might have taken a hit, but like that was a risk I was willing to take, to do what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love everything you say, and especially knowing that you do speak to those young adults that need to hear this message, because I think one of the big causes of anxiety of this generation, the college age kids now, is they are afraid of making a choice and getting stuck in that choice. And that is something that my son told me once. I don't want to take this job and live like that for the rest of my life. So for some reason, they think that if they get something, they will get stuck. And that gives them so much anxiety. So I love what you said. Try different things, experiment, like with food, like with everything in life, with different types of physical exercise. Because some people don't like going to the gym, but there's so many different things you can do, right? Just try different things, try different foods, try different jobs, try different activities that might be a job or might be income source for you in the future. If you don't try it, you'll never know.
I feel like a lot of people, young adults, big decisions, whenever we default to binary thinking of like, well, if I do this, then I'm stuck and I'm gonna be here. Like that's just fear speaking because we're ultimately worried. I think a lot of times really about the opinions of other people too. Oh my gosh, what are they gonna think if I did this job and then, I didn't like it and then I gotta stay in it. And it's like if you do it, if you take a role you don't sign a lifelong contract with the company and they don't either with you. I mean, they can let you go and that's like the free, assuming you're working for like a corporate, for-profit corporation, they have the ability to do that and you have the ability to do that. And so long as you do it gracefully and don't burn bridges intentionally, like a lot of these decisions aren't finite, like we make them. They aren't permanent. And so whenever I hear, like someone comes to me and it's like, I either have to do this or this, like it's A or B. If you try to get them to zoom out a little bit, there are so many other options, so many other ways to approach it, so many to serve that person. So yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of fear today about, and I think I think it's hard to get jobs today. And so it's like, well, if I take this one, I got to stay in it then, like because what happens then? I won't be able to get another one. It's like, how do you know that? Like we sell ourselves so short and we're so much more capable than we realize. And we're 95% of the time we are the ones getting in our own way. And so I'm just really passionate about helping people understand that and hopefully empowering them because I can't change people. I don't try to change people. I just try to, I really just try to lead by example. I
Mm-hmm.
don't I feel like there are some people that are very like intellectually intelligent and like have a really good way with their words and big words, complex, taking like that's not me. I think I tried to be that for a little while and I'm like, that's just not who I am. Like I'm a doer. I'm the person in the arena. I'm the person on stage. I'm the person, behind the camera. Like I want to be that person. That's my strength and leading by example. And so that's what I try to do. That's how I try to serve the world is like being the person that I want to inspire, That's something I've been wrestling with, or I was wrestling with a little bit. I've kind of accepted now that this is my lane. This is what I do well. But for a while, it was like I want to read all these books so I can like articulate these complex ideas, because it sounds cool and like look at them and to each their own. But that's just not my forte, if you will. My
Mm-hmm.
forte is leading by example, is doing the thing and letting people, hopefully inspiring them through my actions, show them what's possible for themselves.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I love about this because it's just inspiration. We can only change ourselves. We will never change anybody else other than us. So living by example is as far as we can go. And that is what the secret is. Be the change you want to see in the world. And we do have this power. And sometimes we just get in our own ways. Like you said, most of the people are doing this. They are getting in their own way. So just be the change you want to see in the world. And that is the secret. I love it.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect, and I definitely learned this through my own experiences of, I remember going to therapy for the first time, or like, a year after therapy, it had changed my life. And so now I'm trying to tell everyone, hey, you should go to therapy. You should go to therapy. Look, it was so transformative for me. You got to do it, yada, yada, yada. And they weren't receptive to it. I'm like, whoa, I couldn't understand why. Like, this is going to help you. But again, I had to realize that if you would have told me 5 years ago to therapy, I would have been like, heck no, are you kidding me? People are all on their own path, we're all on our own timeline. And the way that I've gotten people, the only way you're going to get someone to kind of do what you think is best for them is let them lead their own life and be the example. And if and when they're ready, they will change. They will make the shift. They may not tell you you're the reason for it, and you may not have been the primary reason, but you definitely played a role.
Yeah, of course. And I love that idea of giving them the options. Like what worked for you was therapy, or worked for somebody else was a different thing. So we have so many doors that lead to different paths, but the ultimate destination is the same. And that is coming back to our truth, to ourselves, and tapping into all the resources that we have inside us. So, knowing different tools and different ways to get there is important because everyone is going to choose something different, whatever works for them. But yeah, getting them inspired by your journey and by telling your story is important. Yeah, I do believe in storytelling. Otherwise, I won't be doing this podcast.
Hmm.
It's all about storytelling and telling people that we are all in this journey together. And what worked for me might work for you, but might not. But that's okay. Find whatever works for you and go in your journey, knowing that we are all in a journey. And the goal is just to grow and expand and evolve and learn to love. The final destination, I think, is learning
Hmm.
to love. Love yourself first, like Jesus said, right? Love your neighbor like you love yourself. If you don't love yourself, there's no point.
Hmm.
Yeah, excellent. For us to wrap up, if people want to know you better, want to hire you for a speaking gig, or you have a book too, right? Tell me about
I
your
have a
book.
I have a guided journal, yeah, on a 75-day guided journal on enjoying your own company. So it's really 25 days of, to your point, self-awareness, 25 days of self-acceptance, 25 days of self-love. And
Mm.
if you want to bring me to your organization, conference, campus, it's super simple. Just my name, www.mattkovatchis.com/contact, and or follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm friendly. Just shoot me a chat. It can be very informal. But Anna, thank you so much. I really appreciate your energy, your presence, and the opportunity to be here and share a little bit more of my story with you all.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow the show. You can also share it with your friends, rate it, and write a review. Rates and reviews help the show go to the top ranks so more people can benefit from its message. See you in the next episode. Until then, remember, good is what makes you feel well. Vista transcende.